going on, everybody? I hope you guys are doing well. I'll give you guys a chance to come into the conversation. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And we're going to have a really good discussion today, a discussion about entrepreneurship and Black female entrepreneurs in particular, what our sisters are working through and figuring out, and how we can do better and keep building for the community. And as you guys come in, I hope you guys will hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, subscribe button, like button, all that good stuff, so we can really have a thorough conversation. And so to begin the conversation, I want to welcome my special guest, Miss Rebecca Samuels, CPA, EA. You have to tell me what EA means in a second, but she's
it's an enrolled agent. It just means that I'm specializing in the tax area. I'm licensed by the U.S. Treasury to specialize in taxes.
Okay, there you go. So she's an enrolled agent and a CPA, and also your company. What is the name of your company?
Pythagoras LLC. It's located out here in Washington, D.C. It will be 2 years on July 28th this year that I've been in business, and I'm kind of surprised that I've gotten this far, but it's going.
Well, that's the way it is. That's how everybody feels when you start a business. Tell me yes or no. Yes or no. Does anybody understand what I'm talking about? When people say, so how's it going? And you're like, it's going. It's going. It ain't,
It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's number one, I never saw myself owning a business. But number two, it's been quite an interesting ride because, my first interview was with you. And then it's pretty much, I specialize in the whole cryptocurrency taxation, which I still do. But it's like that also caught on with the crypto wave that was going on. So it was just like a flooding of business. And I've met people from literally all over the world. I've had a client in Australia, Japan, 2 in Ireland, 1 in Portugal. Like I've had clients all over the world. So it's been quite amazing. And I'm just saying like it's going because I'm kind of sort of in disbelief.
So it's more of a, okay, so that's interesting. Crypto taxation. One day we got to have more conversations about that. Because I know the crypto market's actually really taking off again.
Yeah, starting to boom again, which is, I'm like, okay, let's see what happens this time.
Yeah. A lot of people, and a lot of people ran away when the market dipped. And I said, I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing.
Yes.
It almost seems like with all the chaos with investing, I almost think that it doesn't make sense to add to the chaos by constantly changing your strategy. I just do the same thing. Like right now there's the trade war going on with Trump and China and all this other stuff. And I just keep doing what I've been doing, is that kind of your approach to things? Oh, you able to hear me? Uh-oh, I think Rebecca might be frozen. Are you guys able to hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. If you can hear me, you can see me okay.
I'm sorry, I can see you. It froze up a bit on the side. But as you were saying, there was a trade war going on with Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a trade war going on with Trump and China and everything. And my investment strategy has been pretty consistent. I haven't shifted much of anything. I just kind of do what I've always been doing. Let me ask you about this. You've been in business for, you said 2 years?
It'll be 2 years, July.
Okay. And let's start there. What was it that drove you to become an entrepreneur? What pushed you in that direction?
It really was opportunity. And, again, I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. That wasn't really where my mindset was. I've always been the type that's like, okay, get these degrees, get these certifications, get a better job, and eventually you'll be making, $150,000 a year, and then you can live comfortably. That was my thought process. Mm-hmm. But the way things lined up, I'm prior service, so I'm a Army Reserve veteran. I received a clearance from the government, just a secret clearance to be able to do whatever work needed to be done, whatever capacity I was in. And from there, I finished up my accounting degree because my bachelor's degree didn't work. So I went back to school and got a accounting bachelor's and a master's in accounting. And then from there, I sat for the CPA exam while I was working for the government. So I'm, using my clearance and my educational skills and background, I guess what you would say. And once I finished up all of that, I just had an opportunity that was presented to me. It was like, because unfortunately, contrary to what many people would like to believe, once you get a bachelor's degree, you're not just going to land a 6-figure job. People are going to be paying
Wait,
you.
You don't? Like, they won't give me 6 figures because I went to school for 4 years and got a piece of paper? What? Are you kidding?
It's ridiculous. Like the amount of money I was making, I believe it was either $21 or $24 an hour. It was something low, and it's low for the DC area. I guess depending on where you are, 20 something dollars would be nice. But when you have student loan debt and you're trying to pay for a house and you have a car note and all this other stuff, it's just not enough money. So I had a position that was presented to me, and I said, well, now that you have your CPA license, we can offer you, I'm just making up a number here, I think they said they would offer me $70,000. And I was like, I did all of this just to get $70,000? I don't think so. So I turned this particular place down, and they hit me back later and they said, well, we really want you on the team, so I could pay you as a 1099 and we can bump up your salary. And I said, but doesn't 1099 mean I have to pay for my own health insurance and all this other stuff? And I got really nervous because, again, what I know was getting a job and getting the benefits and everything else like that. So that's what I'm used to. So now you're telling me you're going to pay me 1099 and I have to pay for my own medical and I don't get any other benefits and I don't get holiday pay and all this other stuff. And they were like, yeah, but we'll pay you $51 an hour. So I did the math. Oh, $51 an hour plus overtime. So I did for every hour beyond the regular 40 hours, I got extra money. So it ended up being a very big project. I was making like $10,000 a month coming directly to me, which now I'm having to pay the taxes out of and everything else like that. But that's kind of what flipped my entrepreneurial switch a bit. And once that project was over, I said, wow, well, what can I do? I'm a CPA. I guess I can open up an accounting business. It's so cliche, you have it, why not do it? And I wanted to be different, which is why my business isn't named after myself and it has its own name, because I wanted to do something different. I want I want people to think about the company and not necessarily me, but my whole idea is at some point, if I end up getting bigger, I can hire other people to work for me and that sort of thing. And they'll be working for the business. They won't be working necessarily for myself. So that's kind of really just how it all happened. It was a matter of opportunity, things lining up that I didn't plan for them to line up, but it ended up working out.
Interesting. So, by the way, I'm speaking to Rebecca Samuel CPA, and we're talking about the secret struggles of Black female entrepreneurship. And ultimately, and also I want you guys to do this for me. Please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. And also shout out your city. If you haven't shouted out your city, shout out what city you're from, so I can see where everybody's coming in from today. So let me tell you about this, Rebecca. I was reading this article today that I sent to you in Forbes, and Forbes apparently was reporting on an analysis that was done on Black female entrepreneurs. Now, one thing that's really fascinating about Black women entrepreneurs is that they said that Black women actually, first of all, women-owned businesses grew by 58% from 2007 to 2018, which was huge. And Black women actually tripled that. The number of Black women who own businesses grew by 164%, which is 3 times the rate for all women. And also, there are 2.4 million African-American women owned businesses in 2018, the most owned by any group of women aged 35 to 54. And so what do you think kind of drives that? I mean, do you think that there's something about being a Black woman that led to this explosive growth?
That's a really good question. So I'm in a number of social media groups to, either hear about topics, debate topics, depending on what it's about and everything else like that. And what I've noticed in a lot of these groups are multiple streams of income is being hammered down everyone's throats. So it's like, don't just depend on the job, make sure you have something else in the background, and etc. And this is stuff I believe in, because you just never know what's going to happen. And if that one stream of income goes, then what are you going to do? So in that case, I think, being that there are more single mothered households in the Black community, more so than other communities, I think it drives Black women to make sure they can financially support their children. I know myself, I'm a divorced mother. And although I received financial help from my ex-husband, for our son, I just have to depend on myself. I don't ask for anything more than that child support. If I need anything additional, I'm going to make sure I grind to get it, if that makes sense. So I think that's what it is. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Interesting. Well, I agree. I think that, well, first of all, I think Black girl magic just kind of applies everywhere, or Black woman magic. Maybe Black girl isn't the right term, but I think that there's something awesome about the survivability of Black women that makes them, just very extraordinary. So I wasn't surprised, by that data. But then also, when you start with a smaller base, it's easier to have a bigger percentage, right? So
Yes.
I'm curious to know, how many businesses did we have before, and how many do we have now, and how does that, play a role in the percentage? But actually, they did state in the study that Black women have more. I think they said, I could have sworn that they said Black women have more businesses than any other group of women. So it says, yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm surprised about that, because it's out of necessity, it's out of need, it's just we have to make sure that money still comes in, So I see it all the time. If you go on Instagram, out in one of my tax groups that I'm in, they were posting, which this is a pet peeve of mine. It's something called a tax box, or, and it's like, hey, be a tax preparer and make $100,000 for 4 months or something like that. And it's like, I get it. I understand that people want to make that grind and they're going to do what they need to do. But it's just like, for people that are in my situation, I have gone to the schooling and have the licenses, and, it's like, ugh. But I'm saying that to say that I see the grind everywhere, and it's being pushed on African-American women in regards to, again, you'll see it on Instagram, hey, make money doing this, that sort of thing, or become an MLM. Travel businesses are really big. It's like it's like, okay, hey, come and work under me, and I'm a travel agent, and you could start your own. And, so I see it all over the place. There's businesses popping up left and right. I just think that depending on what businesses people are in, they may find that they have a lot more challenges than normal.
Yeah, well, one of the things that crossed my brain is, and I mean, I'm glad to see the growth in the explosive growth in Black female businesses. In fact, in the Black Business School, one thing we teach on a consistent basis is what we believe in, which is called the Black Core of Three. And the Black Core of Three says that we believe Black people can and should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black businesses. Because if you look at the things that cripple African-American people, is the educational system and the economic system. And then you could throw in the criminal justice system, but that's connected to education and economics. So for example, in Chicago, 45% of all Black males between 20 and 24 do not have a job, and they're not in school. So that's two factors. Economic system, don't have a job; educational system, not in school, right? So ultimately, if you solve those first two things, the rest kind of falls, comes into play. Because if a young man or young woman, or especially a young man, if he doesn't have a job and he's not in school, then jail or a casket is much more likelier, or much has a higher likelihood than it would be otherwise, right? So it's all sort of connected, right? So which leads to my next thought, and I just want to get your thoughts on this. One thing the study also stated is that Black women are the only group of people who have more businesses than their men. That's African American women in particular. White women don't have that issue. Asian women don't have that issue. Jewish women don't have that issue. Arab women don't have that issue. Latino women don't have that issue. African American women have that issue. Do you have any thoughts on that, in terms of just what your feeling was when I just made that statement?
I have a lot of thoughts on it. And I guess I'm concerned. I want to know why. I mean, this is, something that's discussed in the groups a lot. We talk about this a lot, but why is it that the girls, the women are doing much more in our community than their male counterparts. I don't understand it. I want to do what I can to help. I've out here in the local area in Washington, D.C., there's a commissioner by the name of Salim Adolfo, and he created a group, a mentoring group for men to try to push men into, well, not push, that's not a good word, try to encourage men to be involved in their communities, to assist one another, to assist the youth, and to go for their ambitions. And it's a men's only group. I don't know how often he runs it, but I do know he has ran it in the past. And I hope to see more of that, because I don't know why. I agree. In my personal opinion, based off observation, a lot of Black women are doing more things than our male counterparts, and I don't know why. And it's sad, because I have a young son, and if I have anything to do with it, I'm going to push him. I'm going to teach him what I know and push him into those areas. But at the same time, I understand he's a boy and he needs a positive male figure, which he has in his father, but he needs that male figure to show him what it is to be a man, to show him how to be accountable, to show him how to be responsible. And while my son will probably end up good based off of who his family is and our situation, I can't speak to that for every other Black male that's out there. So it's saddening, and it drives me crazy, because at the end of the day, you got to think about it like this. These same men are what's left in the dating pool for us women. So we have to do something about that, because women are always complaining, not necessarily me, but women are always complaining that we don't have enough good male counterparts, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We need to do something about that. This, like you said, education, coming down to working. 45% in Chicago are not doing either. That's astounding. So you're saying if there's 100,000 Black men in Chicago, you're pretty much saying 45,000 of them are doing what? Sitting in jail?
Sitting in jail, or marginalized, just, sitting in their mama's basement playing Xbox in their drawers. Maybe slanging, selling dope, running an illegal business. And so some of those guys are actually quite bright. The men that,
I believe it.
Yeah, the guys that run the businesses off the grid are, many of them are better entrepreneurs than what I knew in college. And so I think that what you're really seeing, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing yet another example of how the system does not empower the Black man in America. And the African-American men, I believe, are best off when they're trained to think outside the system and to go around these systems. Like, for example, if you want to be educated, self-knowledge is better for Black males than formal knowledge, than formal school. Every book you can find in a university campus, you can find that same book online or in the library. And also the other interesting thing is that when I learned from other Black men, when I learned with other Black men, I was speaking with a guy named Al Duncan, who is this speaker. He's a public speaker. He's a brother just like me, and he's made over $1 million as a speaker. And he and I talk about the basic little things that we learned about how to make money that you never learn in school, that they don't teach Black men in school.
Yeah, they don't teach it, and they're definitely not going to teach us, because this is things that we have to learn along the way. So yeah.
Yeah. So many Black men, they spend more time learning how to throw a football than they spend learning how to make money. And the other thing that's interesting is he was talking about little life lessons, little basic ideas about economic success that he learned that a lot of us don't get to learn, which is he was talking about rockets. And he said that when he was in sales training, he said that they told him that no rocket that's ever launched is ever aimed at its target. Every rocket is off track, every one of them, right? And the whole time that the rocket's in motion, they're constantly course correcting, they're constantly adjusting it, right, to get it back on track, because it's always going too far to the left, too far to the right. And he said that's how success in business is. And maybe you can speak to this. When you start a business, your plan will never go correctly. It will always fail. Whatever you're planning to do, whatever you think is going to work, it's probably not going to work. You're going to have to adjust. Now, Now, going back to the black male and to some black women as well, if you are a person who has not been given that lesson from the beginning, if you are a person who's been beaten down by the hopelessness of racism and the low self-esteem, where you see failure as confirmation that you're not meant to be successful, and you give up too easily, then you're not going to do that course correcting. Every time the rock gets off chart, you're going to say, oh, that means that I wasn't supposed to succeed anyway. I'm going to quit and I'm going to go back to doing what I'm doing. So I know a lot of young black men who haven't been sort of taught that determination, that adaptability, that consistency, that persistence, they give up. They try, they go maybe like, let's say simply like I'm looking for a job. I fill out 2 applications. They don't give me the job. And I say, oh, forget it. I don't care anymore. Right. Well, because I already believe that the system is not going to help me, or I believe that I'm not going to succeed anyway. So when I get a couple of failures, that's my reason to walk away. Whereas if you think about good entrepreneurs and good people that are just successful, period, at anything, what do? When something goes wrong, they go back to it. They go look at it again. They're like, okay, well, let me break the numbers down again. And I even learned that lesson in my 40s. I watched some millionaires that I knew solve an important problem, right? They launched this product and I watched them. I was a part of it. I paid attention. I was a partner in the deal, but they were doing most of the work. I just put up some capital to be a part of it. And I watched what happened when they did the launch, and the launch failed miserably. It was almost like launching a rocket and the rocket blowing up on the launch pad, right? And I'm all like, oh God, see, maybe that means the idea wasn't good. Maybe that isn't going to work. And I remember watching how they were like, okay, let's have a meeting tonight and let's figure out what we did wrong. Let's figure out. So maybe we did this wrong. Maybe we need to change that. Maybe we need to adjust this. Let's try that. Let's shift this. Let's shift that. And do you know, I watched them within 24 hours correct all the things that were wrong. And next thing I know, I watched them make like $100,000 the next. like I was like, holy crap! I thought this thing wasn't going to work. But it was a matter of tweaking it, right? So maybe you can speak to that in terms of that persistence factor that I think is missing, in a lot of our young people, to just sort of know that, just not giving up is a huge part of succeeding at anything. What do you think?
Well, I've always been a very resilient person. So that's just been like me and everything that I've gone through in life. If there was been a problem, a struggle, anything, I've always pushed on. But I definitely understand at times when it's just like, look, I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I just want to give up. I'd rather go back. I guess for example, what keeps me going is the fact that I've started to build something. The fact that people have talked to me, people know me by name, people contact me many times. I just had a young gentleman last night contact me and said, I saw you on the Dr. Boyce Watkins podcast, so I wanted to do business with you. And it's like, even when, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Tax season is over. I don't really have a lot of accounting work right now. What am I going to do? It gives me the motivation to continue on and go to the networking events, speak on camera, talk to other people, share information, because at the end of the day, it's like, you just don't know exactly where your next opportunity is going to come from, but you have to put yourself out there. And I'll say that for myself. I'm a very introverted person. I'm a homebody. I like to stay at home. If I can stay at home on the internet all day, that's all I'll do. But I understand for myself and for my business and everything else like that, I need to get out there and talk to people, shake hands, present myself. I do a lot of volunteering for things just to say, hey, I need some experience in this. Is it possible that I can do something for you? Because I need to learn. And that way it's now on my resume, quote unquote, and I could tell someone, oh, I've done that already. I can help you with this and I can now charge for it. So it's been different tactics for me on how to progress my business, but I definitely understand. But again, for me, it's like, okay, if I don't make money, we don't eat. So that's my motivation to keep going, because I could always stop all of this and go get a full-time job tomorrow and, make $90,000 a year, but I wouldn't be happy with that. And I've had 2 job offers so far, people that have come to me and they said, hey, would you be interested? And I turned it down because I just know I wouldn't be happy. So if I'm not working for someone on kind of like my own terms, I don't want to do it, which forces me to be resilient and push on to figure out where I'm going. Because I don't have a plan. Right now, Pythagoras is just like that rocket. There is no 10 years from now, we're going to be a multi-billion-dollar company. I don't have that. I'm taking this as it goes along, and I'm embracing the opportunities that comes along, and I'm using that to grow.
Everybody, I'm speaking with Miss Rebecca Samuel CPA. She's a CEO and founder of Pythagoras LLC, which says that she's a math nerd like me.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. Which it comes from the Pythagorean theorem, and she also is an expert in crypto, or in the taxation of cryptocurrency. So if you own some crypto and you need somebody that can help you with your taxes, reach out to Pythagoras LLC, or if you just want help with accounting in general, she's good at what she does. And we're talking about Black female entrepreneurs, the secret challenges, and a Forbes study that basically says that Black women are pretty much leading the country in new business creation, that Black women are the only group in America that in which the women actually, the number of businesses run by the women outnumbers the number of businesses run by the men, which is either good news or bad news, depending on how you look at it. Now, do me a favor, if you haven't done this yet, please hit the thumbs up button, share button, and subscribe button. Also, just know this is the home for intelligent Black people. So if you're intelligent and Black, this is the place for you. I want to also remind everybody, in case you care, my book, Black American Money, actually comes out on May 19th, Malcolm X's birthday. And so you can actually take a look at that copy of my books like Powernomics at drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. And I'll be in Philadelphia on that same day, May 19th. You can, if you want to come to the Philadelphia Day-Long Investing Seminar, you can go to drboycephiladelphia.com. That's drboycephiladelphia.com. All right. So Rebecca, now that I've gotten all that out of the way, so Rebecca, let me bring up another point in the study. I'd like to get your take on this. One of the things that they actually said in the article is that while you're seeing this explosive growth in businesses run by Black women, there's a little bit of a weird thing happening with the revenue. For women of color, actually, average revenue dropped between 2007 and 2018 for business owners. In 2007, the average Black female entrepreneur was making $84,000 a year. In 2018, she was making $66,000 a year. Whereas for non-minority businesses, revenue rose from 181 per year back in 2007 to 212, 300. So not only do you see this gap where, white females make a lot more with their businesses than Black females, but actually, the numbers kind of are headed in opposite directions. Their numbers went up, our numbers went down. What is your take on that? What do you think?
I'm going to say, I think it's a number of contributing factors. So, just talking about my business, my experience as a business owner, I know that me starting out, I tend to be a lot lower priced than my other competitors. Why? Because I'm trying to gain clientele and everything else like that. So whereas, someone is charging $800 for the same service that I provide, I'm providing it for almost 50% less to establish my client base and everything else. But I do know, let's think about it like this. I have been very blessed because of the type of niche, I guess I have, that I have had clients from all different backgrounds: white, Asian, Indian, Black, like literally all different backgrounds to even different countries. But generally speaking, if you put me up against two white males providing the same service, chances are, depending on, who's making that decision, they would probably go with the white males before they would come to me. So I would have to do something to entice those clients to come over here, which would be lowering the revenue. You know what I mean? So I could kind of see maybe that could be the issue why. I do know, being that Pythagoras is by me, I'm a Black woman, I have a very large African community clients that come to me, and I absolutely love them, and I talk about them on my Facebook page because they could be anywhere else in the world, but they choose to do business with me, and I'm very thankful for that. But I have to be, again, price sensitive, because if African Americans aren't making as much money as other communities, they're not going to have as much to pay Black owned businesses. So that's another thing. If, you know, depending on the clients and how much money they make and everything else like that, now we have that issue there where it's like, okay, well, I can't charge, you know, someone $1,000 for something because they may not have it. And I really want this person to be my client. So I have to lower my prices to meet that expectation. But, you know, I hear all the time, and I'll just throw this out there. I hear all the time, you never want to lower your prices. And generally speaking, I agree. But I'm coming from the point where I'm very price sensitive, because I know that before I was a CPA, I was a struggling single mom. I was on Section 8. I had food stamps. I know that if I went somewhere and I said, hey, you know, how much are you going to charge me to do this? And they tell me something that's just out of my price range, I'm not going to go to that person. As much as I would love to give them my business, I just wouldn't do it because I couldn't afford it. Now I have a little bit more options because I'm making a lot more money than I did, say, 10 years ago.
I don't, you know what's funny? I've heard people talk about that and debate that. And I've heard people say, never lower your prices.
Yeah.
Never sell yourself short, things like that. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that at all. I lower my prices all the time. And let me tell you why. The relationship between the Black consumer and the Black business owner, it's like dating, you know, it's like a marriage or something like that. And it's a tough marriage because you don't have trust. You don't have a lot of trust. You know, they don't trust Black businesses to deliver quality. Black businesses don't. I hear a lot of Black business owners complaining more about their Black consumers than their white consumers. Yeah, I once worked with a Black lawyer who said, this pisses me off. It's only my Black clients that ask for a discount, and my white clients, they pay full price and blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I understand. But, you know, remember, white folks have a lot more wealth than Black people do.
Yeah.
And so you can't just say, well, I'm not going to sell myself short. I'm never going to offer a discount, because there are people, very good business owners, who do offer, discounts or whatever it is, because they have a long-term objective. Jeff Bezos, that runs Amazon, for many years, he never charged as much as he could have charged. You know, in fact, he charged so little for certain things that he was operating at a huge loss for years. Why do you do that? Well, because he was building market share. In other words, he was attracting clients. And he knew that once he got people that were, you know, doing business with him on a regular basis, he could come back to them later and set, you know, catch up on profitability at a later date, right?
Exactly.
Why do you think Uber just did an IPO for $65 billion and they still haven't made a profit? Well, because their prices are lower than what they could actually get away with, but they're building market share, right? In other words, they're building a client base. In other words, they're building a relationship. In other words, they're also building trust, right? So go back to the analogy between the Black business owner and the Black consumer to be like a marriage. If I'm trying to marry you or date you, and I know that you don't trust me and I don't really trust you, somebody's got to take that first step and put themselves out there, right? And so sometimes as a business owner, that's what you do. You may decide, I'm gonna put myself out there, buy one get one free, or the first month is free. Give it a try, right? And then if you love it, I hope you'll stay, and I hope later on we can remember that I got bills to pay, and I hope you'll remember me when you're thinking about which business owners did you right. Here's what's going to happen. You do that with 100 people, maybe 30 of them are going to take the free stuff and run. They're going to screw you, and they're going to fulfill every negative expectations you have as a person who doesn't trust other Black people. Like, that's what these Black people do. They come in and they just take the free stuff and then they walk away, whatever. But here's the thing, that other 70 are going to be the ones who really are worthy of the honor system.
And they refer. Those referrals will help grow your business.
Exactly. So like when we do things in the Black Business School, for example, don't think that we haven't gotten screwed by our customers, you know, or scammed by certain people, or had people just, you know, get a refund knowing that they used up the resource and then came back, oh, I want my money back now. There are people out there like that. but the majority of our 80,000 students that we have in that school are honorable, decent people who are every bit worthy of the honor system. So we give them free stuff all the time because we're trying to build a relationship and to build trust to say, hey, look, let us show you for free how we can help you. And then later on, maybe you'll consider, investing in us the way you invest in the white folks every single day of your life, right? So I think that a pricing strategy that makes sense for the entrepreneur is the one they should pursue. I don't believe in hard and fast rules like, oh, I never cut my prices for nobody. Yeah, it's hard to negotiate when you're rigid. You got to figure out what your goals are, be flexible, figure out where you're at. Like you think about it, even when you talk about how you got into business, your price is high because you're a CPA, you've got all these credentials, you got all this experience. But you mentioned earlier that you did some, I think I could have sworn you said you did some stuff for certain people for free, or you work for.
Yeah. I volunteer my services all the time because, again, at the end of the day, it's all about gaining that experience if I don't have it. And then B, I find that when you give to someone, even if they don't necessarily give back to you, they'll probably send other people your way. And that's really what it's about. It's just, what can I do for you? Because I want you to think about me later on in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is. So you think about it, your skill set is a commodity. You are a walking business, a walking corporation, because you've got these credentials. So you have a price. And if your mindset was like, I'm not lowering my price for nobody, anybody who even wants to talk to me is going to have to pay so much money no matter what. And you're not considering, the long-term play, then you're going to miss a lot of opportunities, where maybe if you've gone ahead and gave them something cheap or free, that you could have developed into a great long-term business relationship. That's how I built my whole career, actually, as a public scholar. I went to AOL Black Voices, and they didn't have a budget to hire anybody, let alone a PhD in finance.
I remember that.
Yeah, you remember when I wrote for AOL Black Voices?
I remember that.
Yeah, I wrote for them for free.
I didn't put the two together, but I definitely remember AOL Black Voices because I was constantly in the forums. There was a lot of fighting in there, but yeah.
I grinded for them like I was Kunta Kinte. I was up in that mug writing incessantly 7 days a week, 8-9 hours a day, no pay whatsoever. People thought I was crazy. They thought I was crazy. They didn't understand that I had a long-term play. I said, if I build a brand, then long-term, I can go get my money later on, right? But right now, I'm going to show you that I'm not playing, that I'm serious, that if I want you to invest in me, I'm going to be the first person to invest in me. If I want you to go to war with me, I'm going to be at the front of the battle line, right? and that's what happened. And then later on, when I went back to them and said, hey, since we're talking about negotiating for money now, I'd like to have that conversation with you. And the conversation, Rebecca, was really easy because they knew my value. The trust was there. I built the trust by working for free and showing them that I was good and that I was serious. So I got whatever amount of money I asked for. I don't even remember how much it was. I didn't even ask for as much as I could have asked for, but the amount, they were like, sure, absolutely. Because I was giving them more value as a free person than they were getting from people they were paying 10 times more money to.
Gotcha.
So anyway, I'll let you get the last word. By the way, I'm speaking with Rebecca Samuel CPA, and we're talking about Black women and entrepreneurship and studies and what's going on with Black women. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done that. Make sure you do that. Also, don't forget my investing seminar actually starts tonight, May 14th. You can actually sign up. It's a 7-week masterclass. It starts tonight. You can sign up at drboyceseminars.com. That's drboyceseminars.com. So feel free to go check that out. So Rebecca, let me ask you, one of the things that they mentioned when they talked about the fact that Black women business owners, while there are more business owners, the revenue has dropped, is they talked about, things like lack of access to capital.
Yes.
A lot of our, like they use the saying, they have the saying that says, for some entrepreneurs, it's like jumping out of an airplane and building your parachute on the way down. I don't know if it has to be that way, but sometimes it feels that way. They said that for the Black female entrepreneur, it's like jumping out of an airplane and building a parachute with a toothpick and a napkin, that you're literally trying to make $1 out of 15 cents.
That's true.
Everything with nothing. And there's no access, there's very little access to capital. What are your thoughts on that in terms of that access to capital issue how we can try to find a way around that and just sort of overcoming these capital struggles that affect all of our businesses.
Okay, so I will give you my personal example, and then I'll contrast it with a client I'm thinking of in my head, particularly of what she's going through right now. So for myself, I'll say, when I started my business, I literally put maybe $1,000 of my own money up. And that was to get the website and, do my articles of organization and register the business and everything else like that. So that came directly out of my checking account. From there, because I am a veteran, I have Navy Federal Credit Union. And, on a whim, again, this wasn't even something I thought about. I opened up my business checking account and then I said, let me see if I could get a business credit card. So anyone that's going through this process knows they scrutinize you. They want to know how much you personally make. They want to make sure you're signing for whatever they give you, loan, credit, whatever. They want to make sure all of that is signed by, taken care of. They inspect your website. Sometimes in some cases, you have to have a dedicated business line. It can't be like a voice, one of those free phones. They want you to have a physical address, no PO box. They scrutinize the hell out of you. And I guess I passed because I ended up receiving a $10,000 credit card, which I exclusively use for business purchases. That's how I got my professional tax software. That's how I bought my business insurance, because I pay annually for business insurance and it's very expensive. So I was very fortunate. I didn't have to put up too much beyond that $10,000. Now, of course, I'm using that, but again, I can write off the interest on my business credit card as a business expense, because these are ordinary and necessary business expenses that I've used to pay the credit card that I've used to pay for. So therefore, I can write this stuff off for the business. It works. This is where using credit is to your advantage, when you can write things off on your taxes because you're using it for business purposes and not personally. But to contrast that, I have a client right now that I'm thinking of, and she just started a business and she asked me to, help her with accounting. Obviously, she's not at a point where she can pay me on a monthly basis to do accounting for her. So, I gave her a huge discount. I said, look, I have to charge you because I'm training you, but I'll give you a huge discount on this. I'll help you set up your books. I will assist you with your accounting, and I'm going to train you. So she got a lot of training for a couple of $100 to learn how to handle her books. She is providing, I believe it's travel services and some sort of other consultation. It's slipping me right now. And she's starting to gain clients. So she's had one so far that she's billed for, and she's prospecting a few others. But I can see how our journeys were different, because I started the business and everything fell in line for me. So out the gate, the first year I had almost 100 clients just due to how things worked out. And she's slowly building. She doesn't have the access to capital. She doesn't have credit. So it's harder for her to put that money to invest in her business, to market, to advertise, just to get herself out there, just in case if someone is interested in having her do like the travel, or do, I believe it's social media consultation. That's what she does. For that person to say, hey, you can do my social media for me and I'll pay you X amount per month. So it's been a very interesting difference between the both of us. And it really humbles me, because I know that I've had it pretty decent. It could have been a lot harder. I don't know if I would have had it harder, how I would have reacted, because again, I didn't set out to start a business. It just fell in line. Whereas there are people that are deliberately saying, look, I want to be an entrepreneur. This is the direction I'm going in. Now I have to stay with it and keep going. So it's been pretty interesting. But well, I do agree with that. It's capital, getting business credit is hard.
Yeah.
So
Well, most of the time when you start a business, it seems to me that they don't even give your business any credit for anything. It's all on you. You got to personally guarantee it and stuff like that. And one of the things that I realized is that, to that toothpick and napkin tradition in the Black community, we've got to find a way to make a way with what we've got, and we can't lean on the same models as everybody else. You hear stories about, some 25-year-old white kid who goes to Silicon Valley and gets 1.8 million, 2 million, $3 million, $10 million, whatever. That doesn't happen very often in our community. So, I know with our financing, we were very creative about how we set things up. And in fact, I actually put together a lecture on it if you guys want to take a look. It's how to create your own family bank. I'm actually going to cover it in the seminar that we're doing over the next 7 weeks, as well as in Philadelphia. And if you want to actually download that lecture, you can go to drboycebundlepack.com, drboycebundlepack.com. Just go take a look at it. But the thing is that, raising money and bootstrapping a business really requires you to think things through carefully and to almost have this sort of unique business model that is unique for our community. We can't. The big problem, I think the reason a lot of Black entrepreneurs in America struggle is because we run our businesses the way, white folks have taught us in business school, because they're assuming that you have these resources that we don't always have. And I found that I just had to kind of do it in a whole different way, in terms of where we got money and how we invested and what the strategy was. And the last thought that that went through my mind, I'd like to get your take on that real quick is, I think that a lot of us don't really know how beneficial all the write-offs are when you start a business. How has that been? I mean, in terms of, you're an accountant, you're an expert on this kind of thing. I thought it was amazing, like how much stuff you can write off if you have a good family business. One of the things I've always said is that every Black family should have a family business, because that's when you really get a chance to benefit from the way the tax system seems to be biased in favor of wealthy people, or biased in favor of business owners and investors. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yes, definitely. So, traditionally, when you work for someone, you get your salary, it's taxed first, and then they pay you afterwards, right? But when you're a business owner, you get to deduct ordinary and necessary business expenses from your business, and then you're taxed on what's left. Now, it also depends on your entity structure, because if you're a C Corp, C Corps pay taxes. They're at 21% now due to the new tax law. But I tell a lot of people, if you're starting out with a business, please do not get a C Corp. C Corps are complicated structures that involve having shareholders and everything else like that. It's more expensive to maintain. There should be books of accounting and everything else. You're starting out with a business, start out with a sole proprietor. If you want to get something that protects you legally, talk to an attorney, look into setting up an LLC. We also have other entity structures such as a partnership or a S Corp that give you, again, a more formal structure, but the way that the taxes flow, it eventually will flow back through to you. So regarding business expenses, now this is where the caveat comes in, right? Because I see all the time, especially with certain MLMs, they're always talking about you can write off your entire lifestyle. Business expenses have to be ordinary and necessary, meaning that you have to pay for this for your business to continue. I'm an accountant. I need to pay for software for my business to continue. So that's an ordinary and necessary business expense. When I go out to network with other people to hopefully gain their business, tax laws have changed, so some of this may not be 100% as of right now. But it used to be that, if it's like an entertainment sort of deal where there's going to be other people there and you're paying for it, you can write off the whole entire thing. Things have changed with the new tax law. Talk to your tax professional about any expenses that you may be questioning, because things could have changed. Now, you can't write off entertainment anymore. Meals are at 50%, that sort of thing. Things have changed. But even still, it's necessary for you to go out and get new business. So therefore, that's an ordinary and necessary business expense. I have seen people abuse this because they see, so I'll explain how it flows through. So if you have a regular W-2 job and you have a business, if the business sustains a loss, the loss goes against your ordinary income. So technically, and talk about loopholes, right? Because Donald Trump used the 20 back, 20 forward loophole, which is basically his business sustained a massive loss. He was able to go back 20 years and recoup, get a refund for any taxes he paid 20 years prior to the loss being sustained. And he can carry future losses up to 20 years forward. They changed that. I believe it's only 20 forward now, and you can only deduct 80%. But again, that's just particulars and details. But again, it's loopholes, the way that you could do it. So this would be like the individual loophole for businesses. If you have a business loss and it's a pass through, you can use that loss to go against your ordinary income. And depending on how your numbers flow, you may not owe any taxes, or you may even get a refund, depending on how things work. That said, Schedule Cs are one of the number one areas that the IRS likes to audit, because Schedule Cs is an area where people either don't report the money they make, or they report too many expenses, or they write off things that they can't. So just again, as another example, I have a client that paid $50,000 last year for a prototype. She comes to me to do her accounting, but she does her taxes herself, which I thought was kind of interesting, but that's okay. So I explained to her when I finished up her yearly accounting, I said, yeah, you bought this prototype for $50,000, but you can't expense the whole thing due to the fact that you have to amortize it. It's kind of like depreciation. You have to expense a little of it year after year after year on your taxes. So she was like, I thought I could write the whole $50,000 off. I just spent all this money. I was like, no, you're asking for an audit. They see something that big on your tax return, you're going to get audited. Now, again, she did her own tax return, so I don't know if, she listened to me, but at least I did my due diligence and I explained it to her and everything else like that. So to go back to your point, having a business is amazing. Any expenses that you expend for the business, you can put onto your tax return. And if you have more expenses than revenue, that creates a net loss that goes against your ordinary income. I see people starting businesses all the time, and they're like, well, I didn't make any money this year, so I don't want to write off my expenses. You have to write off your expenses in the year that they were incurred and paid for. You can't do it like in a future year. You can't carry something from 2015 over to 2019. It has to be in the year that it happens. So if you have a business and you didn't make any money, but you spent money on whatever you needed to do, registering, buying things, that sort of thing, make sure you have your receipts. Keep detailed records, keep your receipts. Obviously, because I'm a CPA, I'm going to say if you could go out and get an accounting system to keep track of everything that you spend or write it down on Excel, that's always good, because at the end of the day, you spent that money on your business. If the business didn't incur an income, if you don't have revenue to offset those expenses, you can use those expenses on your tax return to offset your ordinary income. That said, keep in mind, Schedule Cs is an area that they will look at, and they will look for things to try to see. I did a rep work. Okay, so I also do rep work, which is if someone gets audited by the IRS, they can come to me and say, hey, Rebecca, I really don't want to go and meet with the IRS person. Can you go and do my audit for me? And they have to pay me to do their audit. But I'll go in and I'll talk with the IRS person and we'll go over everything. And sometimes I have to argue different positions that's taken on a tax return. But one time I had a client that came in for rep work, and she wrote off about 2/3 of her expenses. And it really wasn't her, it was her prior tax preparer. But unfortunately, the IRS caught it. They audited her for 2 years and they added this stuff back. You don't want to end up getting a huge tax bill in future years because your tax professional, or if you do your taxes yourself, you wrote off something that shouldn't have been written off, or you don't have proof of the things that you're writing off. So that's all I just want to say. Like, I'm very risk averse to that. I don't want clients being audited, but sometimes it's just going to happen. But as long as you have detailed records and you can explain it, you could tell whatever position you've taken, it works out in your favor. And having a business is good because it overall helps everyone out, especially like if you're in a partnership.
Okay, interesting. Well, that really helps a lot. I think that, I think one of the biggest things I know that people have to remember is, I want to tell everybody, do not game the system. Do not go out here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't go out here telling lies. And like like the guy said in the movie, Set It Off, he said, 3 things I do not mess with are the I, the R, and the S. That's what, I don't know if you guys remember him, the garbage man, but that's really true. Do not go out here playing around with these taxes because you do not want to have issues.
And can I add something in here? The thing about it is there was an article out. I can't remember where it's from, but I'm sure if you Google it, it'll pop right up. The people that are more likely to get audited look like us. Mm-hmm. And that's something that people really need to understand. We just are. I don't know how, because it's not like your skin color is on your tax return. But generally speaking, when we have like earned income credit, they've been this year, last year, they've been stopping people's refunds from going through until they verified who you were and if you really had claim to those kids. There's been a lot of people that have been saying, hey, why is my refund taking 3 months to get here, 6 months to get here? Because they're checking everything out to make sure that what you're saying on the tax return is legitimate. And think about it like this. Lower income folks aren't usually able to pay a representative such as myself to represent them before an audit. So it's like an easy slam dunk. Because if I go after this person here who makes $200,000, they could throw their CPA $3,000 to make this go away. Versus, sort of like criminal cases. If you can't afford the lawyer and you have to go with the public defender, now you're kind of at the mercy here because it's like the public defender is overworked. There's just too many cases going on. You're not going to get the full attention you deserve. Whereas if you can afford your own attorney, chances of you faring better in a case, it works more in your favor because you have that one lawyer that, of course, he's going to have his own caseload, but not going to be like a public defender. You understand what I'm saying? So they're going to go after people that aren't making as much money because, hey, if I could prove that you did something on your tax return, you're not going to dispute it. You're not going to have the money to dispute it. So the IRS just won that case.
Wow. Well, everybody, please pay attention. Please listen to what she's saying. Like, just don't mess with the IRS. It almost seems like that's the biggest nightmare for a business owner. And
yeah, businesses are stopping because they've been set up wrong. They're not filing their annual. If you have an LLC, depending on what state you're in, you have to pay a privilege tax. It's called the privilege tax of being an LLC. So in Delaware, it's $300. In Maryland, it's $300. I think out in Georgia, it's like $100, $125. If you don't pay that consistently, they will put your LLC in not good standing. I'm not sure exactly what happens at that point, but they're going to make you pay a lot of money to reinstate your business. If you're not filing your tax returns, S corps. If you have an S corp, you have to file that. If you have a partnership, you have to file that. If you're not filing it on time, for example, a partnership will charge you $200 per month per partner. So if you have a 5-partner partnership and you don't file your tax returns on time, that's $200 each person each month for 12 months as a penalty.
Ooh.
Again, if you don't have that money, when you finally do file the partnership, they're going to be looking for it, right? And then if you don't have the money to pay for representation, there's ways around this. There's always ways around this, but it's going to cost money. That's why I tell people all the time, talk to a CPA, talk to an accountant, talk to someone before you start your business. Understand what you need to do. Even if you have to pay a consultation fee, it's an ordinary and necessary business expense to get yourself set up. Talk to someone ahead of time. Talk to the attorney ahead of time. Pay the consultation fee, half an hour, whatever it is. Use that as a business expense, write it off on your taxes for when the business gets started, put on your tax return. But make sure you're set up correctly. Make sure you know what the rules are. Because the second you violate one of those rules, now it's going to be penalties and interest and all this other stuff. And it's going to be more expensive to get it fixed. A lot of people don't want to pay all the money to get it fixed. So what they do, they dissolve the business. Okay. But some states don't even let you dissolve the business until you pay the bill. So now you're already in the hole just for starting a business because you didn't know what the rules were in the first place. You weren't set up correctly in the first place.
Oof. Okay. Wow. You have given us a lot to think about, and I can tell you, after listening to you talk, I need to go take my nap. So you all can see how smart Rebecca is and why I invited her in. She knows her stuff. Her name is Rebecca Samuels. A lot of you are asking her name. Her company is Pythagoras LLC. Pythagoras LLC. It's named after the Pythagorean theorem, and she's a math person, numbers person, which I respect a lot. So go support the sister. If you need any help with accounting or anything related to that, you can go to pythagoras.com. Is that your website?
It's Pythagoras, so that's spelled PYTHAGUS.com. And I tell people this all the time. It's just easier. If you go on the website, scroll down to the bottom of the first page. On the right-hand side, you'll see something called a conference scheduler. Just set up a free 15-minute appointment, because I get a lot of emails saying, hi, can I have a consultation? And I try to tell people just pick a date on the calendar that works for you. That way we don't have to go back and forth trying to figure out what time is available. Just go on there, click on a day and time, see which ones work for you. If there's something that doesn't work, send me an email. Because I work from my home, I literally have work till midnight. When I've had the client in Australia, I was up until 2:00 in the morning doing business because he's up at, I think it's like noon there when I'm up, at midnight here. So I'm available and I'm willing to talk. Just check the conference scheduler, see if there's an appointment. I definitely would love the business. So whoever's coming through, if you need assistance with accounting, taxes, if you're being audited, if you have a back tax issue, if you need to file prior year tax returns, just be aware, I am the CPA that's going to help you get correct. I'm not going to be the person that's putting false expenses on your tax returns. I'm going to say, look, this is the correct way to do the return. These are the correct calculations. Now let's see if we could figure this out. Because I'm a believer in tax planning, which is let's prevent you from getting into this situation versus reactive when you already have this mess and now we got to try to fix it.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you very much, Rebecca, for your time. I appreciate you coming in and schooling us on the game. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
And everybody who's watching, I'm going to do another video a little bit later and go deeper into that article about not just the struggles of Black female entrepreneurs, but also the experiences of Black entrepreneurs in general, and give you some deeper analysis on that. So if you want to start and join the investing seminar that starts tonight, May 14th, go to drboyseminars.com, drboyseminars.com. It's going to be 7 weeks. You will be an investor when you're done. You also get free access to some programs in the Black Business School. So it's a great deal. Also hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, hit the share button, and all that good stuff. And also don't forget about the book Powernomics, if you want to understand economics as well for your family and why it's important for every Black family to have a family business. You should have books like that. So if you want to check out some of those books, feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. The financial flashcards are there. All kinds of stuff is there for you to get ahead. So thank you very much again, Rebecca. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I shall see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye, Rebecca.